Hey, I'm Matt, and last time I posted a video, it was about sharing stories. So I felt it would be hypocritical of me not to share my own story. Before making this video, I did some research and read an article by Susan Cain called How to Tell Your Own Life Story. The link is in the description below. I encourage you to read it. The article speaks of narrative psychology, which is, in short, how you interpret the events in your life and construct stories to deal with experiences. Time to share mine. And I promise it's not one of those "it all started when I was born" stories. Let's start with the environment. Despite moving back and forth from the city to the country at first, the majority of my childhood was spent in a nature-filled environment in the countryside of Quebec. Nature taught me that this world is full of surprises. Now, despite being in a constant state of change, nature remains tranquil and peaceful, a place to be at harmony with the world, and away from the stress of the city. We'll get to that part later. Growing up, I spent a lot of time playing video games and trading cards, which ended up teaching me two valuable lessons. One, perseverance, due to a massive series of failed attempts. And two, strategy, because thousands of different trading cards have thousands of different effects. To remember all of them takes time and patience. On the social side, whenever I wasn't alone, I was with whoever was available. I understand that might sound like I was desperate for company, but it's quite the opposite. I simply never had a group of people with which I identified myself. In high school, during breaks, I'd walk around and talk with different people all the time, allowing me to connect with as many people as I could. This taught me to network. Today I can talk to whoever I want without the fear of rejection, because it's just become second nature for me to connect with people. On a side note, I do have two friends I grew up with that are still in my life regularly today. I call them my BCFs, best childhood friends. As you can see, creativity comes naturally to me. A friend once taught me, it doesn't matter what you know or who you know. What makes an even bigger difference is who knows you. Think about it. When people are thinking of something they need or someone who can give it to them, are they thinking of you? Because if they are, your ability to contribute has just grown exponentially. I love being that person that people can rely on because I get this feeling of fulfillment every time I help someone. Seeing another person's needs being met, in my opinion, can give anyone a sense of meaning. On a side note, what matters most is who you are, because people know you can help them based on who you are. Back to the story. This is the part where the adventure really begins. It started when I transitioned from the country to the city. I have to mention one thing. I don't know about your preferences, but I used to dream of living in the city. Just something about having access to everything I wanted, on demand. Or so I thought. I moved in with family in the city before finishing high school, the one with the friends I was raised with, so I attended a new French school. Something interesting about my new school was that I was a minority, for the first time. I loved it. I've always been fascinated by different cultures because it's simply something other than what I've been exposed to my entire life. I believe that relating to various cultures is to understand more about humanity as a whole. Also, due to seeing all humans as equals, skin color didn't interfere with my healthy habit of connecting with people, even in a completely new environment. Unfortunately, despite having a decent school life, my living situation didn't function. So at 17, I moved out. For a month I lived with a family friend. This arrangement was temporary until I could find a permanent residence. After that month expired, I found a place with someone I'll call landlord with a big heart. This person was truly kind. However, I still had to take care of myself. I went from living with a parental figure who made meals, took care of bills, and all those responsibilities, to doing it myself in a matter of days. Not long after, I became resentful towards my family. I felt I didn't belong in their lives. I cut them out completely for a while. I also began developing bad habits such as skipping school, watching TV, and playing video games whenever I could, and being obsessed by my looks. I was always trying to stand out and have people notice me. Turns out my inability to ask for help manifested itself in a superficial spree of attention seeking. I ended up depressed. It gets more complex. During the time I was living with Landlord with a Big Heart, I made mistakes. I was on welfare at the time, and the I'm under 18 and going to school welfare is quite generous. Didn't make me any better with money though. I'd spend the money eating out, on booze, and too much coffee. Eventually, I'd have barely enough to buy myself bread and peanut butter, which is what I mostly ate during this time. Sometimes I'd even steal food from Landlord with a Big Heart. If you add that and my excessive laziness, which sums up to not picking up after myself, you can imagine I wasn't easy to live with. Soon after, Christmas time came around. The lesson Christmas Day taught me that year changed my entire perspective on the meaning of family. My family contacted me a couple of weeks prior to the big day, asking if I was available for the holidays to celebrate Christmas at a family party. We had done so almost every year, so regardless of my anger, I thought to myself, forgiveness will set you free. In response, I said, yes, I'm free. Christmas Day happens. I get ready to leave for the afternoon. I'm feeling excited to see my relatives. It's been a while. I miss them. Day goes on, I check my phone, nothing yet. I start feeling impatient, so I take a bus headed downtown because it would be easier for them to pick me up from there. A text was sent confirming my plan. When I arrive, I call my family to let them know. This will be a quick story within a story. So here's how it turned out. They were still at home because they got a call saying that other members of the family are coming over. From their perspective, at the time, the best choice was to accept their new proposal and go along with the last-minute plans. When they confirmed that, I felt sad. I asked, so you're just not coming? They were in a tight spot because they didn't expect that phone call from other relatives when they woke up that morning. They were honest at least. They apologized for not coming to pick me up and for the quick change in plans. Wished me a Merry Christmas and told me they loved me. Contingency planning time. I wasn't going out like that. I called a relative at the family party to see if anyone was free to pick me up. They were shocked about what happened. Anyway, I was told to wait and I'll get some news soon. It was later in the afternoon and it was a family party. People had already began drinking. Apparently I had a relative come in my area to pick up other family members not long before I called. Understandably, I wasn't picked up because the original plans confirmed that I already had a ride. Then, I got the news. Nobody was coming. I told the relative I had previously talked to that it's fine. I'll go back home and do something productive. So I get back home feeling like I want nothing to do with my family. I was upset. I remember trying to think of something productive to do, but sitting on my bed in a negative trance with tears was all that was happening. Until one moment. Who was that at my door? Landlord with a Big Heart. Completely unexpected, this person took me out to McDonald's that day, enlightened me with wisdom from the heart, and gave a sense of meaning to a day where I believed there would be none. Here is the meaning I attached to the events of that day. Family isn't necessarily relatives. Family are those who bless your life with their presence and unconditional love. Those who guide you, laugh with you, and take time out of their life to improve the quality of yours. Landlord with a Big Heart got that name for a reason. Besides, the story I just told you isn't who my relatives are to me. I only feel love towards my relatives today. Among those who helped me during this growing period were none other than the originals, my BCFs, aka best childhood friends. They would come around once in a while to raise my standards of living. They bought me food, took me out to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and just treated me to a great time. And yes, they paid for everything without asking for anything in return. Souls who give unconditionally from the depths of their being. Considering what they did for me, they deserve a minimum of that mediocre poetic appreciation. Thank you. Nonetheless, they are family to me until this very day. A couple of years go by and landlord with a big heart had to move on. I moved in with a friend. Luckily, this friend had a kind family, so renting out a room in the household was a good choice. Summing up the beginning of the experience, if you only went to the club 4 times a week, then you were maybe too slow for us. We went out so many nights and often in consecutive. Picture this. I got a job working 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. at McDonald's 5 days a week. As soon as work finished, I would get home, eat, and immediately head to bed, to wake up and be ready for about 9 or 10 p.m. to head back out and party until roughly 3, 4, and sometimes 5 a.m. All this to wake up at 5:45 a.m. to get ready and arrive at work for 7 a.m. Finally, 14 days go by and we burned out. After that adventure, we decided to be modest and aim to go out only 4 days a week. Compared to what we had just done, it was fairly relaxing. Later on, I began to see that going out and partying don't make me feel fulfilled. I was doing it because I wanted the attention. My social reputation was high, but my integrity seemed to diminish without me noticing. I realized and felt that all I perceived while partying was in some form or another superficial. The more I get to know myself, the closer I get to attracting my full tribe. That is now a priority. So my going out and partying days have been over for years. Just quickly, I ask that you not misinterpret me. By saying that I perceived my partying days as superficial does not mean that I believe all those who party are superficial. I'm simply sharing an interpretation of my experience. Alright, thanks. Following my short career in the fast food business, I was invited to work at a gym. Quite the change in environment, that's for sure. Having been lean my entire life, I thought it's about time I learned how to have the body I always wanted. Surrounded by professional equipment and professional minds, I began the journey. Because the work I did was of the administrative kind, I only exercised after the 8 hours I'd spent working. Now I knew what it was like to spend my days at the gym. When I got serious, it was 6 days a week, holiday or not, here I come. And the nightlife only became a place to boost my ego further, since I had a healthier, stronger body. Quick note, I may not go out today, but I was at that moment in time. I finally got attention that I felt was denied to me growing up due to my previously smaller stature. I soon realized how my ambition was leading me down a path that didn't offer any lasting fulfillment. I couldn't just rely on my body to get me what I wanted, which was mainly attention at the time. The conversation topics I was engaged in didn't help the situation. Never thought I'd get bored of talking about how attractive women are at the gym or anywhere. Turns out what I truly wanted is something beyond superficial. I feel blessed to have reached that conclusion. Alright, back to work. Question. Have you ever taken someone or people for granted just to realize everything they've done for you only after you left? If no, then good for you. Keep it up. You're doing great. As for myself, a year after working at the gym, I left. Not in good terms. I was scheduled outside of my availability. I'll spare you the unnecessary details. I had felt a lot of pressure from my superiors at the time. And since I was entitled, I felt it necessary to put my foot down and just leave. So, I wrote a handwritten note saying that I appreciate the opportunity, sorry it came to this, and goodbye. Put it in my manager's desk and walked out at the end of the shift. Just like that, regardless of my schedule, I didn't come back. I hadn't seen it in the moment, but they had tried to help me out in many ways. It wasn't until about a year later that I reflected upon my decision just to realize how much effort they put in to give me a healthy work environment. That's when I felt the guilt of betrayal. My only regret back then was that I hadn't apologized for my actions. These following words have helped me surpass any mistake I've made until now. In life, to move on, you have to forgive yourself for the things you didn't know before you learned them. Not long after that was done, I went back to school. After getting my high school diploma through an adult high school, I still planned to enter university, so I performed a victory lap to achieve the prerequisites. Once completed, I was in. My dream of becoming a doctor in psychology was becoming true. Here was the plan. I get my undergrad in Canada, then I get my master's degree at a prestigious school in the States, and then I earn my PhD in the top school in England. Voila! I was to be Dr. Matt. I would have developed an accent over there, that's why. Dr. Matt. Turns out that dream was fun to share only to flatter my ego. I love the reaction I got from people when I share my ambitious goals. It made me feel like I was surpassing even their expectations of success. My desire to be the best success went too far. I became contemptuous of anybody who didn't see the world like I did. My ego was more present than ever before. The fact was, I was just full of myself. My experience at university wasn't the greatest. I lied to people I called friends, my job became an excuse to skip classes, referring to classes I could attend, and I just couldn't focus on anything. I wanted to leave halfway through the semester and not look back. But I told myself that maybe it's just me struggling with adapting to the university system. I should at least complete the semester before making a final decision. Glad I chose to do so. The semester came to an end, and so did my adventure at university. After the experience, I realized becoming a doctor in psychology wasn't at all what I truly wanted in life. And I noticed that being in school always brought out the worst in me. What I mean to say is that I feel constantly distracted and bored, which only leads to me zoning out, becoming apathetic, or asking questions during a time which teachers only have a set time to teach a specific curriculum. If you were ever annoyed by a student in your class asking questions or saying things that seem way too out there, then you know how my old classmates felt like. The truth is, I now know how I learn best, by teaching others what I teach myself first. I am an autodidact, a self-taught person. Besides, both my method of personal growth and what I want to contribute to this world aren't taught in schools. Now, as if once wasn't enough, I tried a second round at school. Immediately after my university semester, I enrolled in a bartending course in college. Admittedly, the most entertaining course I've ever taken. In my eyes, college and university never looked or felt so different. Originally, I planned on using my charm to make money as a bartender. The part I didn't think through was how bothered I get when people get too drunk. Listen, you can ask my BCFs and they'll confirm that I'm no stroll in the moonlight when I drink too much, or used to drink too much. And yet, that's the reason why I'd rather not be in the alcohol world. I thought, serving drinks so people can forget their name and just let loose. It's not what everyone wants, but it is what I wanted when I used to overdo it. So now, I don't want to make a living helping people attain that goal, even if many people drink responsibly. It would be going against my own principles. Thus, I decided that bartending was not a part of my future career plans. However, I still have respect for the art and the artists in the alcohol industry. Now that I've learned to drink modestly, being around alcohol is a safe and pleasant time. Still not going to work as a bartender. I understand if you're asking yourself, when is this guy going to stop spending money on education that he's not using? The answer is, not yet. Since my decision of not returning to school, I tried creating a couple of online businesses using the help of courses developed by people who have the results I was looking for. It could have worked if I had just stuck with it, but that too bored me, so I left it be. Then came the blog. My love for writing would finally have an outlet, so I created a site and kept going for about 3 months until I got bored of it as well. Was I bored? Or maybe I just wasn't getting results fast enough. Impatience led me to see failure as the end of the road. So I kept working at the bookstore, the job I picked up before university. Lost in the thought of not yet knowing my life's purpose, I needed to do something. Anything. I started thinking of any other ideas that came to mind regarding an outlet to what I love sharing with the world. As it so happens, what I love to share is wisdom, or any information that makes life a more meaningful experience. Since the blog didn't function, perhaps my writing can still be used, but in another form. The answer came. Videos. It's not like I was meditating on a rock and then finally I heard the voice from within. YouTubing. I got it! I got it! Videos. That's where most of people's attention is these days. So maybe I can help turn that attention into a worthwhile experience. I ended up using the legendary tool known as Google to search for online courses for teaching or making videos. I found one, bought the course, and decided to stick with it. I had felt lost for so long, I just needed to have an outlet for what it is I want to share. The words "know thyself" never made as much sense to me until I started behaving in complete alignment with my inner truth. The point is, I'm working with what I got so far, and so far, so good. Lastly, what am I up to nowadays? Besides planning on moving back in nature, well, it's pointless to share with you a list of activities that alters as I change. What I can say is, just as your story expands, so will mine. When other lessons come, I have an outlet in which I can share them. My focus is to maintain peace of mind while I create my idea of the best experience in life. Obviously, this entire plan revolves around growth and contribution, thus fulfillment. I've come to appreciate the journey instead of rushing for the destination. That's it. I mean, the end. Thank you for listening to my story. I wanted to show how simple it can be to take passages within your life and transform them into lessons that help you grow into who you are today. As for narrative psychology, this is my interpretation of some experiences I've dealt with so far. Just know that you can change the interpretations of elements in your life to create a story that empowers your very being. I assure you you'll grow by doing this. Please feel comfortable to comment your thoughts and share any experiences in which you feel others will also benefit. Also, feel free to like and share this video. Thank you for your time.